Have you ever wondered what happens when your entire family turns against you, just because you dared to choose your own dream over their demands? My name is Anne. I'm 31 years old and work as a financial advisor at an investment firm in Seattle. I don't like showing off, I hate waste, and I never live beyond my means. My coworkers joke that I'm the woman who lives inside a spreadsheet, but I don't mind. Every dollar I save today builds the foundation for the freedom I'll have tomorrow. I'm the youngest of two sisters. My older sister, Vanessa, is 4 years older. If my childhood was like blank pages tucked away in a corner drawer, hers was a glossy comic book displayed in the middle of the living room, bright, celebrated, and constantly cherished. Vanessa, with her golden hair, dazzling smile, and voice that could halt a room mid-conversation, was always the center of attention. Our parents never admitted it, but the favoritism was clear, like a glossy coat over every decision in our house. From her first bike to an overseas trip, to a high school graduation party that resembled a banquet, everything was for Vanessa. For me, a quiet dinner with a "as long as you pass" toast was enough. Vanessa married early, just a year after college. Her husband, Bright, a civil engineer in construction, and their two kids, Ellie, 8, and Brandon, 5, live in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment downtown. The sounds of traffic and complaints about rent are their constant background noise. At weekly family gatherings, Vanessa often laments being exhausted from juggling everything, saying the kids lack space to grow, and that Seattle is swallowing their lives. I never compare, but the contrast is stark. While they struggle with rising expenses, I live modestly, maintaining a stable, peaceful life. I rent a small apartment in the suburbs, owned by the parents of my best friend from college, Jenny. They charge me half the market rate because they trust me, and I've never let them down. Since the pandemic, working remotely has become routine. I love the quiet feeling of sitting at my laptop, a bookshelf of finance books behind me, a warm cup of tea to my right, and a window view of trees shifting with the seasons. I don't need much. I dream of a small house with a garden where I can grow herbs, listen to birds in the morning, and bake on weekends. For nearly 7 years I've saved for that dream. No eating out more than 3 times a month, no shopping unless it's essential, no credit card debt, no new car if the old one still runs. I turn down fancy vacations for hiking trips in the Olympic Mountains. People call me an extreme minimalist, but I call it the freedom to choose. I never blamed my parents for favoring Vanessa, but I learned early that if I didn't plan my life, no one else would. Last week, after reviewing my 3 savings accounts, housing, investment, and emergency, I knew I was ready. Not maybe another year would be better ready, but truly ready. Enough for a down payment, fees, and years of mortgage payments without sacrificing my lifestyle. That evening at my parents' house for our usual Sunday dinner barbecue, garlic bread, and conversations about the kids' school, gas prices, or Vanessa's latest issue with her washing machine, I wasn't planning to say anything. I intended to stay quiet, finalize everything, and then share. But as I scrolled through property listings while waiting for dessert, an image popped up. A little wooden house with a wide porch and a sun-drenched garden. I couldn't help but smile. "What's making you smile like that?" Vanessa asked, setting down her orange juice. I hesitated, then decided to be honest. "I'm house hunting. Planning to buy next month." Silence. As if I'd admitted to a secret life in Alaska. My mom set her fork down with a deliberate clink. "Buying a house? By yourself?" "Yes," I said. "I've been planning this for a long time. I want somewhere peaceful, close to nature, not too far from the city, but away from the honking and traffic." My dad raised an eyebrow. Vanessa stared at me like I'd announced I was buying a spaceship. "And," my mom said, her voice sounding like concern but feeling like a command, "you can't just think about yourself like this. Buying a house is a big deal. You should have talked to us first." I stayed calm. "Mom, I've been saving for 7 years. It's my money. I didn't borrow from anyone. I'm not in debt." Vanessa jumped in, her voice louder than usual. "I'm not saying you can't buy a house, but you need to think ahead. A house should have space for others, not just for living alone forever." "And who exactly are the others here?" I asked, half joking. No one answered, but the exchanged glances between my mom and Vanessa made me uneasy. The next night, as I prepared financial documents for the mortgage application, I got a text from my mom. "I just spoke with Miss Karen at church. There's a beautiful house in Cedar Ridge, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, big backyard for the kids to run around. I'll send you the link. Then came a flood of messages from Vanessa. You have to check this one out. Great school district, supermarket nearby, even has a home office. If you get that place, we could visit more often. I looked at the listing: giant living room, hotel-like kitchen with 2 refrigerators inside. Thanks, but I'm looking for something smaller and quieter. Vanessa replied with one word. Why? I didn't respond. 3 days later, during my lunch break, my mom called, excitement in her voice. Sweetie, I just saw the house on Maple Street. The owners are moving soon. They're slashing the price. The master has a balcony and 2 small bedrooms perfect for kids. You've got to see it. I closed my eyes and replied gently, Mom, I really don't need that much space. I don't have kids, and I'm not planning to have anyone move in. One day you'll want to, she argued. And even if not, Vanessa and the kids could stay on weekends. Their apartment is way too cramped. That's when it hit me. The hints, the exchanged looks at dinner, the family-friendly listings, none of it was random. They didn't just want me to buy a house, they wanted me to buy one for them. I knew if I stayed silent, if I went along to avoid upsetting anyone, I'd be giving up the most precious thing I'd built. A life that was truly mine. I signed the contract for my dream home on a bright April morning, a 2-bedroom wooden house nestled among pine trees north of Everett, about a 45-minute drive from downtown Seattle. It had a spacious backyard, a small greenhouse, and raised garden beds already in place. As I stepped onto the porch and took the keys from the former owner, I almost cried, not out of sentiment, but because for the first time I was choosing my life with no interference, no director. I kept it secret that week, planning to share it at Saturday dinner at my parents' as a happy surprise. I imagined a proud smile from Dad, a teary hug from Mom. But when I said, I bought a house, the room fell still. Vanessa stiffly set her glass down, eyes fixed on me. You bought it? You mean you already signed everything? I nodded, giving a soft smile. Yes, last week. I'm moving in at the end of the month. My mom sat up straight, placing her hand on her chest like she'd heard something earth-shattering. And how could you make that decision on your own? You know we've been house hunting for you. I frowned, a cold shiver running down my spine. What do you mean, for me? Vanessa looked up, expressionless. Bright and I have thought this through. The house Mom picked is near the best elementary school. Ellie and Brandon would each have their own room. You don't need that much space. It's perfect. I laughed silently. Wait, you're talking about that house as if I'd buy it so your family could move in? My dad set down his fork, his voice low and firm. And you're the only one in the family who's financially stable right now. Helping each other is what family does. I turned to my mom. You feel the same? Her eyes didn't deny it. You live alone, work from home, have a steady income. Vanessa's struggling in that tiny apartment. The kids don't have space. If you care about your sister, then I should give up my dream to support someone else's life? I cut in, my voice raspy. No one answered. Bright, silent until now, sniffed slightly, like he'd been dragged into this unwillingly. I can fix up the place and, if it's that 4-bedroom house, I could turn it into an ideal setup, no charge. I turned to Vanessa. You know what? I thought you'd at least ask me, not assume, not make plans behind my back. I didn't think I needed to, Vanessa shrugged. You're my sister. You're more than capable. I'm stuck. You have the stability I've never had. I pushed my chair back and stood. None of you ever asked what I wanted. And now that I finally have something I spent a decade building, you're staring me down like I'm selfish for not handing it over to the family. You're betraying us and, my mom said, her voice sharp as a blade. Barbara on Maple Street was willing to lower the price. Big house, safe neighborhood. Everyone's been planning for weeks, just waiting on your yes. I stood still for a long moment, looking around the table. Blame in one face, expectation in another, quiet disappointment in the rest. No one had asked, and are you happy? What do you want? I didn't buy a house to make room for someone else, I said slowly. I bought it because I wanted a home for myself, a life I chose. And you were all wrong to think you could claim that without asking. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Behind me, Vanessa blurted, You're tearing this family apart over a house. I stopped, hand on the doorknob. It's not about a house. It's about finally being old enough to know who's living my life and who shouldn't be. I opened the door and stepped outside without looking back. The air was crisp, but I felt warmer than I had in years because for the first time I wasn't asking for permission to be myself. Back at my old apartment, I felt dazed, like I walked out of a battle. The door shut with a dry thud, sealing me off from the arguing, accusatory stares, and quiet disappointment. I dropped my bag on the floor and didn't turn on the lights. In the blurry darkness, I stood motionless, my chest hollow, like everything had collapsed without warning. My phone vibrated less than 30 minutes later. First, my mom. 3 missed calls, then a half-page message. You need to come to your senses. Family is family. This isn't a game. Don't let your pride ruin everything. Then my dad. Call me now. I set the phone on the table without replying. The screen kept lighting up. A reminder I'd disrupted their version of normal. But what was normal? Me always being the backup plan for someone else's life? The phone wouldn't stop. Now it was Vanessa. Are you really this heartless? My kids didn't do anything wrong. I thought you understood. Turns out you only live for yourself. I leaned back in my chair, a quiet anger rising. They called me selfish, said buying a small home with my own effort was a betrayal. But had anyone ever asked what I wanted? At 11, Vanessa got jazz dance classes. I got evening math tutoring because, you're good at it, don't fall behind. At 17, Vanessa got a brand new Jeep for college. I got Dad's old Civic with a "it still runs, don't be picky." At 20, she studied out of state, fully funded by our parents. I worked 30 hours a week to afford community college. And now, when I'd built something for myself, they saw it as something they could take to help the one they'd always favored. The screen lit up again, this time from Aunt Cynthia, my mom's sister. And I heard what happened. Your mom is heartbroken. Don't destroy your family over a moment of rebellion. Then Aunt Helen. You know, when you were little, your mom always said you were the most stubborn. But being too stubborn only makes you lonely. I felt suffocated. Loneliness wasn't half as terrifying as being surrounded by people who thought they had the right to dictate my life. I turned off my phone for the first time in years. I needed a night where no one could reach me, no familiar voices, no silent accusations, no guilt planted in every word. The next morning, I brewed coffee and watched sunlight stream through the window. The decision was clear. I would move into my new home within 2 weeks. I wouldn't share the address with anyone except my lawyer, the moving company, and 3 close friends who never judged, only listened and supported. I scheduled the internet transfer, paid the moving team's deposit, and set daily reminders to pack 1 item a book, a small dream I'd once tucked away at a time. That evening, I got an anonymous email titled, "Family Shouldn't Be Abandoned Over Money." I didn't need to read it to know who wrote it. I opened my laptop and replied, "It's not about money. It's about not making space in my life for people who don't respect boundaries." I hit send and closed the computer. That night, I slept better than I had in a year. I moved on a cool Monday morning. The moving truck arrived on time, as professional as the reviews said. I picked a weekday on purpose. Everyone in the family would be busy with work or the kids' schedules. No one would have time to follow. Though I had changed my phone number, deleted my social media, and redirected all mail, I still craved absolute silence. I wasn't afraid they'd come looking. I just didn't want them in my space anymore. The small house on a tree-lined street in Monroe, about an hour from Seattle, was the first place I walked into and felt a deep sigh of relief. No one asked who I planned to move in. No one checked if the living room was big enough for family parties. Just the sound of wind through maple trees, sunlight on hardwood floors, and the warm scent of pine in every breath. I spent the first week unpacking, cleaning, and arranging things exactly how I wanted. No one stopped me from painting the office olive green. No one told me not to waste money on a tomato trellis. For the first time, I bought a patio set just for morning tea. No excuse for guests. I joined a local gardening club days after moving in. The first meetup was at Grace's house. A kind woman in her 50s with a blooming lavender garden and a gentle smile. No one asked where I came from. They only cared what I was growing, whether I'd pruned roses before, and if I wanted to swap seeds. I met Liam, a freelance landscape designer my age, who helped fix my irrigation system and trim branches blocking sunlight from my herb trellis. We didn't talk much about family, and that felt like a relief. Work was better than ever. Remote work, free from stressful messages or passive-aggressive remarks, let me focus and be creative. A project I pitched to a major client got approved in just 1 week, unprecedented. My manager, Karen, called to congratulate me, saying I'd get a raise and a request to train new hires. For the first time, I was recognized not just for doing well but for being me. Every Saturday, I rode my bike to the farmer's market, picked out fresh vegetables, and chatted with vendors. Once, I helped a little girl pick the right onion from her mom's grocery list. Her mom invited me to a local book club at the library. I said, yes, why not? No one there knew I'd been called a traitor for not letting my sister move into my home. They knew me as the woman with thriving basil and a refined taste in books. Sometimes I glimpse photos of Vanessa or my mom through old friends' social media vague captions about selfish family members or pictures of the kids in a cramped room with comments like, happy no matter what. I scrolled past without feeling more than a slight frown. I'd stopped needing their validation. One late autumn afternoon, while sorting seed packets for next spring, the doorbell rang. I thought it was Liam or Grace, but through the peephole I froze. Vanessa, her hair loosely tied, eyes sunken, carried an old tote bag. Behind her stood Ellie and Brandon, thinner than last time. All three stood silently. I opened the door without speaking. Cold air rushed in with Vanessa's hesitant breath. I wasn't sure I was still allowed to knock, she said, her voice free of blame, only exhaustion. I didn't invite them in, but I didn't send them away. We stood in tense silence until Ellie quietly said, Aunt and Mommy said if we were good, we could see your flower garden. I crouched down and touched her head gently. I just planted white chrysanthemums. Do you like those? She nodded. They came in not as welcomed guests, but as people who'd lost that privilege and found one last chance. Vanessa didn't apologize right away. We drank tea in silence, watching the kids explore the garden, careful not to disturb the fragile peace. Then she spoke, her voice barely above the wind. I thought you'd always be the one who takes it all like before, like Mom taught us. But you're stronger than all of us. I looked at her not as the favored child, but as a mother realizing her limits. I'm not strong, I said. I'm just tired of being treated like an obligation. Vanessa nodded, her eyes red. I was wrong to think blood gave me the right to walk into your life without knocking. I didn't say I forgave her. I didn't accuse her either. Everything that needed saying was left behind. 3 weeks later, I took Ellie and Brandon to the town's book fair. The kids buzzed around picking out books. I spotted Liam leading an art activity under a maple tree. Brandon asked for watercolor paints, and Ellie sat down like the place was hers. Liam looked at me and smiled, a warmth in his eyes. These two look like they're at home here, huh? I nodded. Looks like they've found their quiet corner. He didn't ask much. No one here asked about my past. They cared how I was living today. I realized the space around me wasn't just a house. Every basil plant, carrot bed, and book on the shelves was part of a life I'd built for myself, and for those I chose to let in. Family isn't just shared blood. It's the people who respect your boundaries, who knock before entering your heart, who don't treat your kindness as an obligation. Grace invited me to the Winter Festival. The book club nominated me to host next month's meeting. Liam left baskets of oranges at my door with notes. Pick this morning. Stay warm with fresh juice. I smiled every time. One evening, while finishing a financial plan, my phone lit up with a message from Vanessa. I'm looking for a new job. Not asking anything from you. Just wanted to say I'm managing on my own now. Thank you for not slamming the door shut. I didn't reply right away. I looked out at the garden under gentle moonlight. Peace wasn't a luxury. It was a result of choice. I had chosen well. A week later, HR emailed. We're reviewing candidates for the new financial training program. One applicant, Vanessa Marks, included a reference letter stating she'd been guided by an independent advisor during her career shift. That advisor is you. I froze. Vanessa had taken initiative without asking for help or a good word. She quoted something from my blog. Everyone deserves a fresh start, but you have to take that first step on your own. She'd chosen a different path, showing change through action, not words. That evening, returning from book club, I found a note on my fence in Ellie's messy handwriting. Aunt Anne, I helped Mom write her resume. I think she's trying really hard just like you. She still doesn't drink ginger tea the right way, but I'm teaching her. P.S. Did you plant more purple chrysanthemums? I sat on the front steps, watching leaves sway in the winter wind. I didn't cry, but something softened like ice touched by spring sun. None of us are perfect, but we're learning to grow not for others' expectations, but to become better versions of ourselves. 3 weeks later, Vanessa joined the training program. She walked into our building, not as Anne's sister, but as herself. In the lobby, she nodded toward me a silent acknowledgement. Thank you for teaching me to knock. That night, Liam stopped by with oranges and dried rosemary. No note, just quiet presence. I brewed tea, opened the window, and let the scent of soil, wind, and basil fill every breath. I don't know what lies ahead, but I know this. I no longer live to please others. I live to be true to myself, leaving the door open only for those who knock with humility. Sometimes the most beautiful endings aren't reunions or farewells, but the quiet moment when you can look someone in the eye, even from a distance, and feel nothing but peace.